Hello, fellow stick wielders. Scott here from Amperage Drums. And today, now that we have the WAV files extracted from the VSTs, we're going to go over how to process those before you can turn them into an instrument files. And today's video note is considered optional, and that if you don't do this step, it will work. This just helps to save space to make sure that you can have larger kits, and it helps to just ensure that you don't have any sounds that ring out a little too much, which sounds a little muddly on the module from what I've seen, especially through headphones. All right, let's get into the video. In part 1, we looked at how to use the SDSE tool to grab raw WAV files from your plugin of choice to get the raw drum sounds. And now in part 2, we're going to go over cleaning up those raw files so that they can be then turned into instruments using the Strike Editor app. So the tool I use for this is the Goldwave, and they have an online version. So if you just go to goldwave.com/editor, that will load their new Infinity Editor, which is the cloud version of the old Goldwave program. So once it loads, you can go to Open. Now, the first time you go here, you'll need to click this OS thing, and it will bring up your File Explorer type menu, and you can search to navigate to where you stored your samples from step 1, my first video, but I already have it loaded. So today we're going to be using the UGRI tone. We're going to be doing the Tight Studio. So I have them in Wave, Tight Studio, and we'll start with this hi-hat, the 16-inch. Now the first thing when we go to the hi-hat sounds we copied over, this is the closed sounds. These are the files as named by the SDSE tool. So what I'm going to do is go to the File Explorer, and Mac is the same, but this is just the Windows File Explorer. I'm going to go to that here, and what I'm first going to do is copy all these files. So I'm just going to do select them all, Control C, new folder, I name it original. Go into that and then do Control V, but that puts all the files there. Now the reason I do that isn't now I can just start deleting these and stuff, and that way if I ever want to go back, I can have those files. But I know right away I definitely don't want these. They're too quiet. And now I start opening the sounds and seeing how they sound. So like even 25 sounds pretty quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and remove 25. And then I also start just kind of leaving gaps, like 49 and 41 are pretty close, so maybe get rid of that. 50, 65, 69, that's pretty close. We probably don't need all those. Get rid of 73, maybe 85. I'm just kind of guessing right now because I can go back and re-add these. That's the whole point of that original folder. Probably delete like these 3. That's pretty good for now. And when we go and build this instrument, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You want I usually like to start with about 16. I might have deleted too many here for like toms and these type of instruments. The snare drum, you want to start with about 24, I found. And we'll trim it down a little when we create the instrument, and we can also add some back. That's pretty good. Maybe we'll just start with that. So now that we have trimmed it down, we can go back over here and go back to our Tight Studio, our hi-hats, 16-inch, closed. Now we'll see the more trimmed down manageable. But still, there's one other thing I like to do. These names are pretty long, and so when we go to the Strike Editor app, sometimes the names can get cut off. So I do go ahead and quickly rename these. So in Windows, I just hit F2 to go into renaming, add a space, and then I like my velocities. Since 127 is a Mac, I like to use 3 digits like that. So this name is a lot more concise. So now I'll just do that with all of these off camera, and we can resume once I've renamed these. Now that I've renamed these to something smaller, that will be shown well in the Strike Editor app, which we'll see in part 3 why that's important later. So now we can go back again to the web browser, the Goldwave program, and let's reload that folder. Now we have the small, easy to read names. Now this is the real crux of what we're trying to do. So here I've set up SDSE to extract the samples in mono, which saves a lot of space. But you can still see there's this ton of extra gap of silence. All this flat is just useless. Like if we play this, you can hear the sound stops, like right here. So we want to trim that out to save space. So I generally go to right about, that's about, you can see where the sound kind of like really stops. And then you can, if you do, it's edit and trim is the UI way, but if you actually just select with this thing what you want and then do backspace, that does the trim. And now we can save that, and that's already trimmed down. So what I like to do is just go through every single one and do that, select. That's about right. I play it real quick. Yep, that's about right. Hit backspace to trim it, save that out, and go to next. So I will do that with all the files, and we'll meet back up. Now I've trimmed all those files down, and this is the 127, the maximum one. And at this point, what I do is check how long is this file. Here's an example of a long sound that I've just trimmed as I would normally do, yet I'm playing it back. You can hear it rings out really long, and this is well over 3 seconds. This is an example I've already done from the EZ3 library. Just wanted to show what I would do to fix this, as I didn't actually find a sample that was too long in the current Thai Studios. So here's what I do, since I trimmed it to here, but I feel like it should be a little shorter. I say I'd want this around somewhere around 3, play it back till I hear. It's mostly about the length I want. It doesn't sound too abrupt. And then before I do anything else here, I'll go back to here. So this is the hi-hat sounds that I'm currently working on. I'll create a new folder here. Call this lossless original, because these files, I've already trimmed them to my normal trimming method. So I haven't actually changed the sound any. I've just trimmed it to be as small as possible. So now at this point, I can start modifying this file, since I have a backup. And I've copied and pasted these into the backup. So I have a backup. So now I can go ahead back here, trim this file, and then we can do the 2/3 rule of fade out. So about here is where it really consistently starts to fade out. So I do fade out. Again, I have the hotkey set up, but you can do effect fade out. I have it set up to the F key. Start with usually about like number 4, then go about 2/3 of the way to the end. Fade out again, also about number 4. And then this one, you can see it's still pretty thick, so then I do 2/3 again, fade out about -4. And then if this is still, I'll play this back and give it a listen. And that sounds good. But if that sounded like it cut off too fast still, I would just Control Z 3 times and then maybe do like -5 or -4, -5, -4, stuff like that. So this is the folder for the 5th tom from the Thai Studio package. I've already copied all the files here into the original, and then I've renamed and trimmed down to the files that I think I'll need. And I just wanted to go through this one more time to give an example again of how it works using the Goldwave. So we've gone to the same folder here in the Goldwave online editor, and then we can just open it and start going one by one and trimming. So again, backspace trims, save, on to next, and it just go down the line like this with all the files. Trim, save, and then open the next. We were on 41. Always remember which file you're on so you don't keep opening the same file. I've done that before. And we just keep going. And finally, we get down to the 127 file, open it, give it the trim as normal, and save it. Then we'll check. And that does ring out just a little bit. So I do think I'll slightly trim that down. So of course, first just go here, do a new folder, lossless, trimmed. So these have all been trimmed now. And you can ignore this -2 file because that's the one that Goldwave creates when you're actively editing something. It'll go away after you're done editing. So we don't need that one, but otherwise copy all the rest, put them in lossless trim since they're all trimmed now. And now we can just trim this down some, probably about like 1.9 to 1.8. Maybe about exactly 2. Yeah, that sounds about good. So trim that and then just do our golden ratio fade out. It looks like about here is probably going to be good. Fade out. -4. And again, I've set up the hotkey for the F. So I'm just going to use that now. Probably -4 again. That looks pretty good. And I think that was a little too extreme. So I'm going to Control and Z it. And I'm going to try -3 and -3. Yep, that sounds great. So just save that, and now I'll go, whoops, you can't do Control Save, just hit save. Yeah, just save that, and then I'll go backwards now, going down to the smallest files, trimming them all to about this 1.9 in length, and then just doing the fade out, and that will be it.